Good evening, everybody, and welcome inside upon further review. Another week. Here we are for week 7. My name is Eric Dudkevich, better known as Doot, alongside the coach Shannon Griffith, and we'll be taking you through the next hour talking about all things high school football in the SAC, NE8, ACAC, NECC, and across Northeast Indiana. Coach, how are you? Good evening.
Well, survived the wind and rain on Friday night for the most
All tried
part.
out, huh?
Yeah, more of a wind event in most cases than it was a rain event, but still pretty treacherous night to play high school football in that type of weather. And there were schools down in southern part of Indiana from basically Indianapolis south. They didn't play until Saturday because of the number of the wind was so brutal. It's like 70 miles an hour down there, I guess. So
yeah,
we got lucky.
Yeah, we did. We certainly did. We got the games in. It was a nasty night, but we were able to get the games in. And obviously, we think of the people in North Carolina and Florida that are really experienced the hurricane. We certainly are with them this week. And football is just minor in the same. And I know there are local athletes who are competing in colleges in that area in different, not just football. That are from our area that, family members have said, I've heard from them, they're safe. And so we're grateful to hear from that too. But yeah, it's certainly for us, it wasn't as big as what they were experiencing. It just made it a crazy night. And then things cleared out on Saturday. It was a beautiful day. For the most part, it kind of cleared things up. And I was at the Rivalry Game down in West Lafayette, and I know Bloomington looked good, and they got the game in South Bend and for Notre Dame. So, but it was a great weekend of high school and college football. Of course, we were out at Luers Field for Northside versus Bishop Luers in a big SAC B division game. And it went down the wire, Coach, in a different way. It wasn't that 35-31 high scoring affair. It was one of those 10-8, dealing with the elements, and you were on the call with Brett Rump on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM, and just kind of your impressions from that game, given all the circumstances that we saw.
Well, it was just kind of the weather played a huge part in that game as a whole. Luers was, got up on Northside. Northside made second half adjustments that got them back in the ball game, and then it was just a matter of a couple plays here and there that ultimately decided the game. But because of the weather conditions and the wind, mostly, it was a very hectic night to do anything offensively. And that's why it led to that, minor scoring in that game. And I think Luers, being that it's a natural surface, also took away aspects of that game because it was a lot of guys were slipping and really couldn't get a good grip into the natural grass surface, mostly probably because it had been pretty dry up to that point, and that field was probably, even with the rain, not really that hard. It was hard rather than overly soft. So all that played a big part in it. And but Luers found a way to get it done. They jumped on them in the first half and hung on in the second half. And, it was a good ball game, all be told. And Luers is showing again that they're able to put things together at the right time and find ways to win ball games.
Yeah, absolutely. The final score in that game, 10-8. So one of those, Luers Field, a grass surface, so the footing was a little bit of an issue, but Luers jumps out to that 7-0 victory or lead in the first quarter, adds a field goal right before halftime, and then Northside responded in the second half with a touchdown, and then that late safety to kind of throw off the score there. I think Luers kind of did that as a preventative measure, but realistically, if you look at some of the individual stats, we talked about it, Coach, not going to see a lot of passing in that game on Friday night. In fact, the two teams combined for two quarterbacks, Tristan Newsom and Devin Patterson, combined for like a 5 of 10 passing for 64 yards between the two. So 64 yards of passing offense. Luers only had 56 yards rushing, but they got the job done, and they were able to get it. That fluctuates with Dario Williams, the ability to get his long touchdown run, but then with some of the sacks and short yardage and tackles for loss, it came out to 56. And then Northside able to get a little bit more ground game. Tristan Newsome, 138 yards with a touchdown. So we had him on the show last week. Impressive, both styles. He's a fast kid. He's the 100-meter sectional champion from track from last spring. So he told us, if I can get in the open field, it's a foot race. Like, I like my chances, and I think that he became that running back for them on Friday night. But just really not a great night for football just in general with the weather, but particularly at Luers with the grass field. Now their facilities are great. The Luers dad take care of the grass, but it's a little bit different when most of the teams in Northeast Indiana have that turf.
Well, yeah, it provides a better surface. And you take Northside, for example, went from being on a natural surface a year ago to now playing on a synthetic surface, and it showed on Friday that they weren't able to get great footing, and that ultimately led to some of the miscues that they had. But they ultimately got themselves in a position where they got going what they got going by doing the formation set they did and running some form of over or unbalanced set, and let Newsome just kind of find his way through the carnage at the line of scrimmage, and he busted out of them on the second play, I think, of the second half, went for like 50-yard touchdown. So it was just one of those nights that if you got up on somebody, it was almost like 2 scores. I mean, it is almost being up 2 scores because of the conditions
in that particular game. And so a big win for Northside to kind of maintain that control of the B division, which I guess there's kind of a de facto division champion, though nobody's clear on, but ultimately in the hunt for an SAC championship because they're still sitting at 4-0. On the big side of things, Coach, another big one, a couple of big games. Snider and Homestead was probably the matchup of the night and on that side of things. But what became the matchup of the night, I would say, was that Carroll Wayne game going down to the end. Carroll holds on 17-16, to keep their, that was a surprise to see ultimately. But there again, with the weather conditions the way they are, it kind of helps even things out. And we might have seen that a little bit out at Wayne Stadium last Friday.
Well, we talked about it in the pregame that Wayne is, if they can put things together, they're a very difficult team to play against with the talent that they have. And the win, that win factor probably did help them in some aspects of the game. But, Carroll coming off the game that they came off of, it was kind of a ripe game for them to not play maybe to their best ability. And they found a way to win it in the end. And, but like we said, they've always had trouble with Wayne. That's one of those games that Carroll through the years has just had a couple, problem with those guys for whatever reason. And part of it, I think, is because Wayne figures it out and they start playing better during that time period. So, but they found a way to get it done and remain on top and kind of put some more separation because of the Homestead game.
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy Sullivan, 5 for 10 for 71 yards. So not a lot of passing from him.
No.
On the flip side, the rushing attack, 294 yards total for Carroll. So it was a grinded out type of game where probably a lot of the clock was running. So you didn't have that high scoring affair. Jimmy had 107 yards, and then Nate Starks added 175 and a touchdown. So he's gotten going from the ground game the last couple of weeks. Good to see for Wayne. The scoring came from Kamar Nelson, who had 85 yards and a touchdown. Harold Mack kind of came in as quarterback and went 7 for 9 for 88 yards, and then 64 yards on the ground. Leons Martin added a touchdown for the Generals as well. So,
Nate Starks, I saw this, I think today, he became Carroll's all-time leading rusher.
Yeah,
after that
yeah,
performance
congratulations
Saturday.
to him, and,
Yeah,
that's
so
that's a
big,
feather in the cap if
yeah,
for somebody like
exactly.
that, a hardworking kid, a good kid that, we've talked about many times here on the show, so just one of the many, matchups this past weekend, and we'll go through a lot of the different games, from last Friday and look ahead to this week. Columbia City keeps rolling. We'll have, Stratton Fuller on, the talented senior, here in a little bit to talk about the Columbia City's ride so far in this season. And Snider gets back on track with their win against Homestead. And we'll talk to Landon Fry, senior linebacker for that squad, who got in on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll talk to him a little about that as well. So really exciting. And of course, we'll talk about all the games this coming Friday, which will be week 7. But Coach, I think we do have our first guest ready if we want to go ahead and bring
All right,
him
yeah,
on.
let's go ahead.
If you're cool with that. And it's great to be joined tonight here by Stratton Fuller, the senior wide receiver and cornerback and kick returner for the Columbia City Eagles.
Yep,
Stratton, first of all, thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Upon Further Review.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I always enjoy being on. I know this is my first time, but I'm always glad to be on.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, and let's start with, this has been a high flying season for this Columbia City team. Let's start with last Friday. 70 points on the board against New Haven, a school record, 6 rushing touchdowns as a team, weapons all over the field. We've talked about a lot over the season. Just this team this year, what has made this team so special so far through 6 weeks of the season?
Yeah, a lot of credit does have to go to our fronts, defensive line and offensive line. They have been stellar this year so far, and I hope they continue to get better in how they have handled themselves and how they approach each game. They know that other teams have some guys up front, and they're not afraid, but they attack it as a challenge. And I love our offense as well. Like, as a whole, we just get along, and we trust each other. I've been playing a lot of slot this year, me and Fazio and Gavin Smith. So we trust that our O-line is going to make a hole, and they trust that we're going to hit it, and then that's how our offense works best.
Sure. We've talked about, we've had you on the show before. We've talked with you a lot. Everybody kind of knows you a little bit more from that Columbia City team headed to Army. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But some of the other guys that we've seen, Fazio and Faust, Grayson Bradbury, the quarterback, this group, talk about the development of these guys that we're really starting to learn their names on Friday nights. And wow, the firepower that this team presents as you guys go through the NE8.
No, yeah, you said some names right there. No disrespect to our team last year, but when you look at our offensive weapons this year, it's improved. It has. Tyler Faust, he's 6'2", 180 wide receiver. Last year, teams could focus on me and they could double and triple team me at wide receiver. And now they just can't do that anymore because we got a guy like Tyler in our offense. And then Trace Parrish, both of them, they came from Homestead. Trace Parrish is our starting fullback. He's been killing it this year. He's got like 8 or 9 touchdowns already. And Gavin Smith, not only is he's a slot back for us, but he had 2 pick sixes last night. He's got 6 on the year. I'm hoping he gets all state safety at this point. He's killing it on both sides of the ball. And then Fazio, he's got 9 touchdowns as well. Jet sweep, he's to the house. He's fast, runs like a 4.5. And Grayson, I'm so impressed by him. He's really improved so much this offseason. And a lot of credit to him. And then I mentioned our O-line, man. They've really stepped it up from last year too. So, I think as a whole collective unit, we've just improved greatly from last year.
Sure. And the defense too. You're a guy who plays both ways. Statistically, you guys, I think heading into this past weekend, 48 points a game, one of the tops in the state. And then defense, 9 points a game, one of the tops. That aspect of it too, holding your opponents down, keeping them out of the end zone, causing the turnovers. That's a big aspect of that. It seems like to me the defensive side of things is really that added element that you guys have really come along, especially in the last year. Just talk about the growth of that side of the ball and really how that's become such a successful part of what you guys have been able to do at Columbia City.
Yeah, so starting with our secondary, I mean, it's me, Faust, and then Smith back there. So we all play offense as well. But, I mean, I think we do a good job of holding our teams passing. I mean, they can't we don't want them to throw on us as much as they do, but we force teams to do that because of our D-line and linebackers. Our front eight, I think, has done a really good job this year. So our middle backer is Ethan McIntosh, and then his younger brother, I believe, is our Will Corbin. He's a sophomore, and he's done really well, both of them. Ethan's took a big step from last year as a junior. In our D-line, we got Gavin Shepard and Garrett Shepard, brothers. One's a sophomore, one's a senior, just like the McIntoshes. And then we got Avery Freemion and Wyatt Freeman. They're not brothers, but they do a good job as well. And it's Wyatt Freeman's first year starting, but he's done a really good job. He's one of those quicker D linemen, and he does a good job. And I'm really happy for him that he's stepped into the role that he has as well.
Hey, Stratton, Coach Griff, you guys is at this point, you really, in a lot of ways, haven't faced a lot of adversity in terms of the teams that you've played, because you guys have really outscored your opponent, and you've accredited that, a lot of that to the defensive play this year. And on top of that, the talent you guys have on offense, making it difficult for a defense to try to take this away or that away when you're all capable of making big plays. But the next 2 weeks for you guys is where you face the teeth of your schedule. Yep. With East Noble coming up this Friday night. I mean, that's ultimately the next 2 weeks are for you guys to remain in the driver's seat, so to speak. East Noble, big win at Leo, and you play them up there and come back and play Leo at home. But talk about the next week and what you guys think you're going to be facing up in East Noble.
Yeah, I mean, they came off a big win at Leo 2 weeks ago, and then they won last week. I mean, this is one of those games that we have circled. I mean, we've won every game so far pretty handily, and we know that East Noble, they have a lot of good dudes on their team. I mean, Carroll, he's been 9 yards of carry, whatever. He's been doing really well, and their old line's always good. And, I mean, they just have a lot of players. I mean, I know Logan Hatton, we train at Traction a lot, and I know he's a good player. He's having a good year. But, yeah, this is a game that we're ready for, and we have to have a great week of practice this week. We've talked about this, me and the captains and the other seniors. We need this win. I mean, this is for – I don't want to say first because we still have Leo, and they're a great team. But, I mean, this could be a huge game in shaping who wins the NE8 this year. So,
what is it like playing at East Noble? I mean, when you look at all the NE8 schools that you guys play at, whether it's East Noble, whether it's Leo, and some of these other NE8 schools, would you rank East Noble as one of the toughest places to go play?
Yeah, I would, and I say that because I've also been more than just a player at Columbia City. Like, I've been a ball boy for like 5 years before I even played, and we had to go there just like we do now. And, I mean, they got that cannon every time they score.
Right.
And all that. Yeah, I mean, and they always have a good fan base too. I mean, they're one of those teams that, they've been good for the past like 25 years. So, I mean, they're well established, and when you're well established, obviously the fans turn up, and then your culture, you're well respected just based off your track record. So it's definitely one of the toughest places, if not the toughest right now in the NE8. So, I mean, we got to be ready for that element.
Well, I would suggest that people get there early Friday night, or just the parking aspect of it all. And because I would imagine that Kendallville will shut down, and I would imagine most of the people in Columbia City will make its way up to Kendallville, right up Highway 9. And for a game that's, again, this should be a really good ball game. I think you're both probably equally matched in terms of what you have versus what they have. And these are the type of games that you want to play in as a senior. I mean, that's what you're ultimately wanting to do, is play in these type of games, and you guys are going to get an opportunity to do that on Friday night, knowing that irregardless, you still have a Leo team that you have to finish up with at home. And that's going to be a game that they've got is, good a talent as you do. So, I mean, you're going into these next 2 weeks with the two dominant teams in the NE8. So the next 2 weeks for you guys is, I wouldn't want to play both of them back to back. Let's just put it that way, because they're well-rounded football teams, but that's the schedule you guys are dealt with, and that's what you're going to ultimately have to do. And if you guys can do it, you deserve to win the NE8.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, Lee, we can't overlook Leo as well, just because East Noble beat them. I mean, Leo's still got a great team. I mean, hopefully my future roommate, Landon Hepner, he's a great player. He's been killing it this year. I mean, I don't know if we'll be roommates, but hopefully. We've gotten to be pretty good friends. So.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue, because, you committed to Army, and we did have Landon Hepner on a few weeks ago, and the kind of the friendly rivalry that you guys have. But talk about that aspect for you, the ability to play at Army. There's a lot that goes with it. It's not just college football, but for you, the commitment to Army West Point, and really the intrigue in joining that program, and what that will all entail for you.
Yeah. So what's funny about me committing there is, like, when we first started getting, like, when recruits could actually talk to me, my junior year, like around that September time, I don't know when the date is, but, my dad asked me if I'd ever consider a service academy, and I told him no. I never thought that I'd go down that route, but they offered me in February or March, and I was pretty intrigued, because Coach Powers, he does a really good job of selling the program, and I mean, what he said was true. But yeah, and then I took a visit, and then I saw it with my eyes, and I couldn't deny what I saw. And talking with Coach Munkin, he's a really great guy, and all the coaches, they wanted me too. I've always been told, go where you're wanted, and I felt like they wanted me the most, so that's why I chose them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The service part of it, you talked about your dad asking you and we're pulling up your little announcement here that you shared on X when you committed, and in shots with you and Coach Munkin and all of that. But the military aspect, that talk about that part of it, and just, that commitment that's coming down the line for you, and really the opportunity to serve your country, and how important that is to you.
Yeah. Like most people, we had, my mom especially, and my father, we had a lot of questions. And all those coaches, they did a really good job of answering that, and not even just about football, like you mentioned, the service aspect. And so it's 5 years afterwards. What's nice about it is when I graduate, I get to pick where I go in the country. So I don't know where I'll pick, but they said a lot of guys pick Hawaii. Don't know why they pick Hawaii, but they say a lot of guys pick Hawaii. So we'll see if I decide a Florida place or a Hawaii place. But yeah, so I'll serve for 5 years in whatever role I decide. I'm thinking about maybe economic or finance branch. Going down there, doing my thing, and then after 5 years, I have the choice to stay or leave and do my private job. So, yep.
Having Landon go with you, Landon Hepner, that is. Talk about, and that's pretty cool. I mean, two kids from our area, from the same conference, Leo, Columbia City, similar in the sense that you both play on both sides of the ball. That opportunity to play with him, and the friendship you guys have developed that you guys will take out to West Point.
Yeah, I mean, we never honestly talked before this whole Army thing, and I mean, that's, normal. Leo, Columbia City, don't really know each other well, but yeah, he so the day I committed, before I even announced it and he even knew, he messaged me and he was like, asking, because he had the offer at the time as well. He was asking if it was a good fit for him. He was asking me about it. And I was telling him stuff. I was being honest, and telling him everything I saw, and I even sent him a few photos, I think. And I don't know how long after I committed that he committed, but he ended up committing. So, and then through that, we've really been talking more, and I mentioned it. We'd like to be roommates and stuff, but yeah.
Well,
that's the unique stuff. That's the unique stuff about it, and those things I'm sure will work out. And but the beauty of it is that, making a commitment to a service academy is one of those selfless things that student athletes that get the opportunity to do it. And someone like you in your background, things of that nature, I would see you as a perfect fit, as I do Landon in that arena, just because, from my days in college football, there's a certain type of individual they look for. And you fit it, and Landon fits it, and there's more kids around in this area that are going to fit it in years to come. And once that pipeline's established for them, it becomes something that will continue to grow. I mean, they had it's slipping me now, the kid from Snider.
Dellinger, yeah.
Yeah, the offensive lineman was there, and his experience. Now I think he's graduated now, if I'm not mistaken. But he went there, and he was a perfect fit for him. So congratulations on that, number one. Number two, this is a true 40-year commitment in the mindset of what you're going to set yourself up for. And that's what guys sometimes, forget about. There's no portal at Army. There is no, they're not going to go to the portal and pull out some guy. They're in the development game like college football used to be. And it's a very unique setup, and they win. And Coach Monken is a true head coach that has won everywhere that he's been, even as an assistant coach. And I'm sure you're going to fit right in with what they want to do with you, as will Landon Hepner. So congratulations on that for the first part of it. I think that needs to be commended in terms of it's an unselfish act to think about it and what you want to do, and then choosing to represent not only the community you come from, but your country as well, and what that all entails. It's not an easy decision. It's a tough decision. I'm sure you mulled around for a little bit, even with your parents.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That means a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Stratton, it's been a pleasure to talk to you tonight here on Upon Further Review, and catching up with you. And what a season you guys have had so far as things keep rolling. A big one in Kindleville, like we mentioned, Friday night. Columbia City travels to East Noble with big NE8 title implications on the line. And we certainly wish you luck Friday, the rest of the season, and your time at Army West Point. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from you more down the road.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I always enjoy it.
All right, Stratton. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
That was Stratton Fuller, the wide receiver and cornerback for the Columbia City Eagles. And, Coach, we really got to know him and really started hearing about him. It's probably been more than a year ago now, but he really has burst on the scene. And that's where you see the Army offers come down. And he had other offers as well. And the opportunity to go to a service academy and think outside the box. I mean, it maybe a year ago, it wasn't something that he thought of, and now he's here with that opportunity. And lo and behold, somebody like Landon Hepner going there too. And he's formed a new friendship with a kid he's never known before as a senior in high school from a different school, different team, and two really good players.
Yeah, no question. And some of that too also exists with kids that become intermixed with traction and things of that nature. But I mean, he's the type of kid that a service academy would look to, be it Army, be it Air Force, be it Navy. They're looking for these kids that are good leaders. They're also fantastic students in the classroom. They're also well revered throughout the high school, not just on the football field or basketball or track. They're highly respected by not only their peers, but all the teachers that are in the classrooms. They have a high regard for these type of kids. And I don't think Stratton fits right in that arena. And, he's worked for what he's got, just like Landon Hepper. They just hadn't things fall in their laps. These kids have worked at it for the last 3 or 4 years to get where they're at. And, when they achieve a goal that I'm sure they had for themselves, it's a very rewarding experience. And like you said, he had some MAC offers as well. I mean, he didn't have to go to the academy. And when you have other opportunities and you still decide to go, it also makes that decision a little bit more difficult because you're looking at it from a different perspective. So hats off to him. I'm sure mom and dad are definitely proud, at the same time a little nervous that they're going to be that far away in New York and things of that magnitude. But at the end of the day, you can't ever go wrong by representing the service academies and what they can set you up for life with.
Yeah, and a heck of a season for him so far and a career. He's Columbia City's all-time leading receiver in receptions, yardage, and touchdowns. So far this year, 109 yards per game on offense with 10 touchdowns to go along with 24 tackles, an interception, and fumble recovery. He does some kick and punt returns as well. All conference, all area, all state, primetime 25 from Indiana Football Digest, and a heck of a basketball player, second team all conference as a junior. And he'll have the opportunity to play for Columbia City again this winter. But a great kid, and we appreciate him coming on.
The thing about it is on that NE8 is, and I didn't mean to walk on you there, partner, but is you look at teams like Leo, we've talked about what we feel their opportunities as a team to potentially represent Northeast Indiana. East Noble fits in that category, but Columbia City has as many kids that may give these teams fits because they're doing it with more than just one guy. If you look at last year, Stratton was kind of the guy, and now they've got more guys that are making plays on Friday night. A quarterback that distributes the football really well, a defense that's played really well. And those are the type of teams, when you got a team like that, it's hard to defend. And that's what East Noble's going to have to look to on Friday night. So these next 2 weeks for them are going to be tough, but they're also going to be great games.
Absolutely. We thank him for joining us tonight here on Upon Further Review. And now it's time to bring in another guest with another big game on Friday night and a big season still to play here for his team. We're delighted to be joined by the Snider Panthers with Landon Fry, the linebacker senior. Landon, thanks for joining us here tonight on Upon Further Review.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So first of all, the bounce back last week versus Homestead at home at Spooler, a tough one a couple weeks ago against Carroll. But you get back right on the winning side of things, 35-0. I mean, just the ability to bounce back for this Snider team in the last week. Just talk about what that win has done for you guys, especially after 2 weeks ago with that tough loss at Carroll.
It's done a lot for us, I would say. People going into it didn't think that we could compete with those 6A teams from the beginning of the year, but with the rain and stuff, Coach Tibb was preaching all week. Handle the situation, or the situation will handle you, which was the weather Friday night, and I think we handled that situation pretty well.
Yeah, you guys get the big win, 35-0. And for you, I mean, you're a linebacker for the most part, and maybe one of the leading tacklers, you and Brandon Logan up there going back and forth. But hey, you got on the offensive side of things. Just talk about that little wrinkle that you guys were able to bring out. You caught a touchdown pass, and is that your first one in high school? Is that right?
Yeah, I think first caught touchdown pass. I've had a running touchdown pass
on the offensive side of things. Your first offensive talk me through that. I mean, how special was that, and to get that call in the huddle and to know they have the opportunity to do something like that, and such a big atmosphere as the Snider Homestead game.
Yeah, it was a fun night. Boot pass is one of the big calls for Snider. Call that a lot. So getting out there and running out to the flat, and nobody was covering me, and see the end zone, just run in it. And then I would really just say playing on the offensive side of the ball, our offense wasn't really clicking. from the start of the year. So putting me in and adding a different wrinkle, adding something that other opposing teams didn't see was definitely something for them to change, and it worked out pretty well.
Well, we had your game 2 weeks ago, and while the scoreboard didn't reflect as a team that night for you guys in a positive light, you probably had one of your better games of the year because I saw you making a lot of plays against Carroll. And, speak a little bit about that because, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just felt that night you as an individual, and I know it's a team game and stuff, but you just seemed to flash a lot on Friday night against Carroll and made a lot of plays.
Yeah, I would definitely say being in the loop the past 2 years, I've gotten better. And yeah, I think I would say I had 16 or 17 tackles Friday night. Or last Friday night. So that was pretty awesome. I mean, Carroll was a good offense. And then I would say the scoreboard definitely did not reflect the way of the game. I mean, Coach Dib was talking after the game, and he really liked our effort and how we didn't give up. They just made some good plays and got in the end zone. So hats off to them and their offense.
Well, you mentioned that the coaches decided to make some decisions to change some wrinkles here and there. And, the offense struggled against Carroll. Some of that was Carroll's defense, not just the offense, but, Carroll's defense too. But, that's the one thing about you guys as a whole, as well as the coaching staff there. You may have an outing that may not go your way, but at the end of the day, they're just not going to say, oh, well, they're going to find ways to get better and make your guys better and giving you the best opportunity to win. And it sounds like they made just enough adjustments to really catapult you guys on Friday night.
Yeah, a lot of things that we worked on this week in practice. We didn't really get beat because of the physicality factor. It was like little technical things. So this week in practice, we were working on more of those technical things and those little things that can help us come out with the win each Friday night. And then I would definitely say going out there and beating Homestead, we knew we had to win that game to maybe take a share in the SAC championship. So we had to go out there and take that win away from Homestead.
Well, you still got the outside chance of being in there. The other thing that is probably even more possible than anything is that you may face this Carroll team again once the tourney rolls around. And you guys have basically been competing in different sectionals and things of that nature, but you may get a second shot at Carroll. Would you welcome a second shot?
Oh yeah, 100%. After the game and the score, we were like, we'll see these guys again in sectionals. We'll be all right. We'll make our adjustment throughout the week, and then our main goal is to be playing our best football by week 10, and we're in a good run for that right now.
What are you looking at? This is your senior year, correct? You graduate this. What are you looking to? I think you're committed to IU in baseball, correct?
Yep, correct.
Is that your first passion, or is that just the sport you just happen to be really good in, or both?
Yeah, that's my first passion, but the season I had last year and the season I had this year, a lot of people are telling me that I maybe need to try for football at the next level too. So we'll see where that takes me. And
well, it's maybe something to contemplate. I certainly wouldn't tell you not to, because there are opportunities out there that maybe IU will lend itself to you. But I think when we had Brandon on here a year ago, I told him the same thing, and lo and behold, look what happened to him.
Yeah. Because I long snap too for Snider, so Coach Ike is the long snapping coach. So he said he might send in a video of me long snapping to them and see what happens.
Absolutely,
see where it goes. So we'll see.
Yeah, the defense, Landon. We almost said Brandon. Brandon on your, and you guys are good friends. You guys, I mean, in fact, back to the baseball point. national champions 17U with the Canes Midwest. Brandon's on your team. I think Purnell Whitset from Northrop and all of that. So a lot of talent. You guys play together for probably a long time. You and Brandon on Snider football and the defense as a whole. I mean, how good is this Snider defense? Just man to man, talent to talent, guy lining up, in that secondary.
Yeah, we're pretty good, and we know that. We just know that we have to go out there each Friday and do our best and come out with the win each Friday. But yeah, I would say we're good. We're not the biggest defense, but we definitely are fast and we fly around to the ball, and that's what is a big success with our defense because we fly around and make plays, and not too many defenses do that.
Sure. The state championship a year ago, what did that mean for this team, for you guys that are able to come back? I mean, to win a state championship is the ultimate, right? But you still have high school football to play. What does that do for you win a state championship? You're one of 3 teams in Snider's history to do so. To come back now, what was the message coming out of that state championship with so many key guys coming back, and you guys moving up a class in 6A?
I would say it means a lot because the way we won our state championship last year was kind of in an easy fashion. So like the guys that played in the state championship last year knows like all the work that they have to put in to win a state championship. But then from those young guys coming in, those outsiders looking in, they just think that, oh yeah, we won it so easy, and that they can do it as well. But I think that's what we're struggling with right now is some of the young guys aren't buying in, and I think throughout this past week in practice and going forward, Fort Worth, we're going to step up and hopefully win another state championship this year in Class 6A.
Sure. Looking ahead to your schedule real quick, Northrop this weekend, then finishing up with Dwanger and Wayne before sectional play. A lot of important football left to be played in the regular season. A lot of things can happen with some other teams in the league. Just that mentality of continuing to improve and show what you got as a leader, a captain of this group. Just talk to us about the overall where this Snider team is halfway through the season.
I would say we're pretty much where we want to be at halfway through the season. We go into every single game thinking we don't care who we're playing. We're just playing for us and trying to get better for us so we can, like I said, be playing our best football by week 10 and hopefully make a big run.
Absolutely. Well, Landon, we appreciate you coming on tonight. And well, real quick, why IU baseball? I mean, Big Ten, big time, big stage, all of that. I mean, again, that opportunity for you, not football, baseball, that opportunity to play a high level as such a great athlete. Just talk about your decision to go play at IU.
Yeah, that presented itself early. I would definitely say Coach Mercer is the head coach at IU right now. He came in, I would say 5 to 6 years now from Wright State, and he's definitely turned the program around. They've had a lot of success this past few years. A lot of the stuff that he preaches, I preach well too, and he's big on family and all that. The facilities are great, and it's just a place where I think I can excel at and hopefully take my talents to the next level.
Absolutely. And a heck of a mustache you got there too, kid. I wish I could do that. And I mean, anyway, but I digress. Well, we appreciate you coming on this week on Upon Further Review and joining us to talk about the Snider Panthers and the season you guys have had and your future. We certainly wish you and the Panthers the best of luck the rest of the way, and best of luck to you in the future at IU. And I know we'll be hearing a lot about you and from you in the years to come.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Good luck, Landon.
That was Landon Fry, the linebacker turned sometimes receiver, tight end, rollout, catch, touchdowns, 2 receptions, 34 yards, and a touchdown on the year. So an added wrinkle. And Coach, I mean, I think we talked about that. You know, we saw a little bit in the scrimmage with Homestead. earlier this year with Brandon Logan getting involved in some of the offense and things. And when you have major D1 talent, a Landon Fry who's going to go play baseball at IU, Landon Hepner, Leo who's going to play football at West Point, Stratton Fuller, Brandon Logan who's headed to Notre Dame in 2 sports. You're going to use him more than just to say, okay, linebacker, sit there at middle linebacker and tackle the guy that's coming right at you. You're going to use that. And we saw some of those video clips. He's got speed. And he's soft-spoken, as we saw in the interview, but out on that field, he's a ferocious competitor, and it really shows. And he's definitely a leader of that Snider football team.
Well, the both times that we had him at East Noble in the weather game that ultimately got postponed until Saturday, and then the Carroll game, he definitely stood out for them as a football player. He makes a lot of tackles. He can play sideline to sideline as a linebacker, and he's not afraid to go north and south and step up and take you on in the hole either. So he's a prototypical Snider linebacker if you ever saw one. They've taken him maybe and done some things that they did with Rohrbacher a year ago. Remember, he played some fullback, and they used to use him in the passing game because he had really good hands. So I just think it'll be a continuation with him as they go through the next 3 weeks and look to build upon what maybe he can do for them as they go through the next 3 weeks of the season, preparing for the first round of sectionals coming up here in the latter part of October. So he's a football player. There's no question about it. I mean, I can't say I have seen him play baseball, but you don't get a Big Ten scholarship offer if you're not a kid that they A, really want, and B, may have Major League Baseball draftable aspects to it as well. So we'll have to see what happens this year. Who knows? He may get drafted before he ends up at IU. There's a lot of things ahead for that young man, and I'm glad that he's playing 2 sports. And but we know that going to IU to play baseball and IU's success in baseball over the last few years has really been good. So there's an opportunity for him, and hopefully he'll earn that opportunity to do what he wants and get to that next level if that's what he so chooses to do.
Yeah, and I pulled it up here as I was kind of alluding to during that interview. He's part of the Canes Midwest program. This is from his Instagram page. They won the couple different championships this summer, but one of the championships they won was the 17U championship for PBR baseball, which was pretty cool. And so, he's a heck of a baseball player, 2-time all conference, like I mentioned. And like I said, when you're able, what did he say? 2 years ago that he committed to IU. So, I mean, as a sophomore, and so, anytime, I think there's still, we live in this age where, it's transfer portal and there's NIL and it's just constant upheaval. And we may get to a point where the prestige of colleges, their names and stuff don't matter as much, but we're not to that point yet. And so when I hear somebody, is committed to IU for baseball or a lot of these other programs, that makes me notice. And so I heard about Landon Fry a couple years back just because of that. I wouldn't have been able to tell him on the street, but I knew Landon Fry at Snider, committed to IU baseball, playing football and baseball. Oh yeah, that's a good athlete without even knowing really who he was. And then, what he's been able to do as a football player too. And the funny thing is we didn't really mention it to talk to him because it was like, but he was the one. You talk about coach, and you were a coach a long time. When Snider won the state championship, it was 7-6 at halftime, and they won 33-6. And I asked him on the field after the game, postseason, out with the blue medal around his neck. I said, Landon, what was the difference in the second half? And he said, hydration and conditioning.
Yeah.
And if that's not a Snider football answer that I've ever heard one at the state, it wasn't, well, we got this fiery speech from Ike or Tip or, the the captains all, said, let's go and put their hand through a wall. No, it was, we drank more water all season long, which is literally on posters all over the Snider locker room. And that proved a difference. These guys work hard year in and year out. And yes, they won the state championship a year ago, but you can tell in that interview, there's more to be done. There's more to be played. Their hunger for a new year is still there. And I think we see that. And that's great to see, is that you don't rest on, well, we're state champions. What else is there to do? Come back and play one more season as a senior at Snider High School. So that's great to have him on. And they're against Northrop this week. The battle between our two alma maters, and it should be a fun one out at Spooler, like it always is when those two teams lock up, just by virtue of they share the same facility and who gets to come out of those visitors' locker room. And I think Northrop might actually be considered the home team this week, so they'll get the home.
Snider won't have to do it too much longer. They'll have their own stadium in a few years. So
yeah. And I think, Coach, that kind of segues into looking ahead to some of these other games this weekend. As we roll into week 7 with some matchups and, some decent games on our schedule this week. Of course, leading the way for us will be with our Midwest Box Breaks high school football game of the week on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Carroll at Homestead. So Carroll survives Wayne. Homestead, which had been rolling, gets set back by Snider. These two teams lock up in another now SAC rivalry. And this is another one where the records kind of go out the window, and we really can have a fun one out at Walter Stadium on Friday.
Well, it's still going to be a game that will ultimately be about, things that occurred a few years ago. And I do think that maybe Jimmy gets up a little bit more for this game than maybe some others, because he knows a lot of those guys out there, as does all the players that are playing. So, it'll be a good game. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there because I have other responsibilities next weekend that require me to be in Southern Indiana. But Josh Williams is going to set in for me with Mr. Rump. But that, Homestead they're kind of a head scratcher this year, because I thought that game with Snider may have been a little bit closer than I thought it would be. But it just sounds like Snider dominated them. So it'll be an interesting game. Carroll coming off a game where they almost, stumbled and, against Wayne. So anything can happen, and it may ultimately be one of those nights that anything could happen.
Yeah, Carroll has won the last 4 in this matchup. Last year, 41-20. 2022, they win 52-10. The Battle of the Bishops, another fun one, a long-standing tradition for the city of Fort Wayne, the Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend, and these two schools and proud programs as they lock up for the Miters Trophy, which the miter is with the hat that the Bishops wear. But this is a fun one. This will be out at Shields Field, Coach. And, I think it's going to be a test for Luers, because they've come along nicely and they've had a lot of success against the B League teams. Now they're playing an A team, and they're getting that rivalry game against a bigger team that is, Dwenger is really in need of a win too, a signature win.
Yeah, because they still have winnable games in front of them, and they need something good to happen to them, because they're now in a rut, and it's hard to climb out of those sometimes when you've lost a few in a row, and it's definitely not going the way they wanted it to go this year. Nor is it going the way that some of us thought it would go this year. So they'll have an opportunity against the rival. But they're going to have to play good football, because right now Luers is probably playing as good a football as anyone in the Summit Athletic Conference, regardless of A division or B division. So it will still be a good ball game. It's not going to be something that Luers will be able to just show up and turn the switch on and play, but it'll be a good game overall.
11 points has decided this game the last 3 years. Luers won 28-29 last year. They won. Dwenger won 17-12 in 2022, and it was 41-38 in 2021. So we've seen some big numbers. We've also seen very close games. Would not be surprised if we see that again this weekend at Shields Field in the Battle of the Bishops. Snider at Northrop, the Spooler Bowl, if you will. This one probably has all the makings of Snider dominating. Coach.
Yeah, we can. I mean, it's a rivalry game, but the honest fact of the matter is it hasn't been a rivalry game for a number of years. And is it possible that Northrop could give Snider a run? Maybe more so this year than any year. But we'll find out on Friday night where that all stacks up.
25 years since North beaten Snider. The 1999 sectional semifinal was the last time that happened. The totem pole game, over 100 years old. They've been playing for the totem pole almost 100 years, not quite as long as the rivalry and the schools. It was added later, but these two teams, Southside, the big win over Concordia, 9-7, but still a big win for them. Northside just falls short against Luers. This could be another tight game out at Chambers.
Well, yeah. And, they're both playing on synthetic surface, so there's not going to be a distinct advantage one way or the other. Tristan Newsom is a phenomenal athlete that can make things happen. And so Southside is going to have to be aware of that. Northside's defense is, I think, better than maybe what they've played this year. Early's a kid that could dominate, but I'm not so sure he does every week like we think he should, maybe. But this game, again, is a rivalry game, and both schools are fully aware of the totem pole and what it means to each program. So Southside is going to give its best shot against Northside.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was 29-26 a year ago. So another 3-point game. And I think it's somewhere along the lines of 5 or in a row or something like that. For I mean, I don't have all the stats in front of me for that game. I'll have to get that for the pregame show on Friday night. But and then Wayne Concordia wrapping up in the SAC. The big ones in the NE8, the big one in the NE8, Columbia City, East Noble. Coach, your thoughts real quick on this game Friday night for really one of the first place games in the NE8.
Well, I think the biggest thing is Columbia City is going to have to play awful well to beat East Noble at home. I mean, that's ultimately going to be it. I think they've got some of the advantages in the areas they need it. It's just a matter, will they capitalize on things and not do things that beat them, like turning the ball over and things of that nature. But it should be a dandy of a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've said for years that the NE8 runs through Kendallville. That tends to be the case, or in Louisville, Cedarville. So Columbia City trying to get back there again. Huntington North at Leo. That should be a fun game. Huntington North really putting things together to Calvert, Norwell, two teams that are kind of going in different directions right now. Belmont, New Haven, a battle of the unbeaten. Somebody will pick up their win in the NE8. Over in the ACAC, I think the one that draws the most attention, Heritage at Bluffton. Heritage bounces back a week from the loss to Adams Central. Bluffton keeps rolling, Coach.
Yeah, Bluffton, I think they've got the best opportunity of anyone to get a shot at Adams Central, but we'll have to see what all happens.
Yeah, absolutely. South Adams at Jay County. Southern Wells makes the trips to Adams Central. Woodland in an out-of-conference game with Prairie Heights. And then the NECC, Central Noble and Busco. Busco could keep things moving. They are looking good. First place undefeated in the small division. That's huge for them. Fremont and Eastside. Eastside gets the win back after struggling. Garrett at Fairfield. The big train keeps rolling for the Railroaders. West Noble at Lakeland. How does West Noble respond to that Garrett loss against a game Lakeland team that can score and turn you over? And Angola faces Owen Valley on Saturday night. And just real quick, a reminder, our Midwest Box Breaks high school football game of the week on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM is the Carroll Chargers at Homestead Spartans. 7 o'clock Friday, kickoff at Dave Walters Stadium. The PSM High School Football Tailgate Show starts at 6 from the stadium. The Pizza Hut Scoreboard Show immediately following the game. The Pizza Hut at Village of Coventry. Join Brett Rump and Josh Williams on the call. Jim Shovlin and myself will be on the pregame show, and Brett and Adam Lundy will be on the postgame show. So a lot of action on Friday night. Remember, you can watch our show on video on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. The show was also on demand on anywhere you find audio versions of your favorite podcast. And we want to thank real quick, Coach, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM for adding us to their lineup this week. Excited to be back on the radio airwaves every week, helping lead with some added extra coverage and content for high school football.
Well, absolutely. Appreciate that. And Josh and everything that he's done over the last year, taking over there. And, happy to be back on the airways. That's all I can say. But thanks to those guys and gals that are tuning in. And hopefully we'll get you back here a week from now as we do this thing one more time as we start heading towards the end of the year.
Yep. So for Coach Shannon Griffith, I'm Eric Dudkevich. This has been Upon Further Review. Have a great week see you Friday nights at the game, and we'll see you right here next week on Upon Further Review.